He called her a liar. Said those children weren't his. 4 years of silence. 4 years of her raising triplets alone. Until the day he saw them. 2 boys, 1 girl, all 5 years old. All with his eyes. And a gift no one had taught them. He built an empire on control. But these children? They were about to unravel everything he thought he knew about power, about blood, about the woman he destroyed, and never forgot. Seoul never forgets. 4 years had passed since Kang Min-jun stood in that sterile hospital room and spoke words that would haunt him in ways he didn't yet understand. Words that cut deeper than any business betrayal, sharper than any rival's blade. You only want my money. I'm not the father of those children. He'd said it with the cold certainty of a man who'd built a tech empire from nothing, who trusted data over emotion, contracts over promises. Amara had stood there, her dark skin glistening with sweat from 18 hours of labor, her body still trembling, 3 newborns sleeping in the bassinet beside her. She didn't cry. That's what he remembered most. She just looked at him with those deep brown eyes that once made him feel like he could be more than his father's shadow, more than the calculating CEO the world feared. She looked at him like he'd just confirmed something she'd suspected all along. That he was exactly who everyone said he was. I understand, she'd whispered. Just 2 words. Then she turned her back to him, reaching for her babies. The triplets he'd convinced himself couldn't possibly be his. Min-jun had walked out of that hospital and never looked back. He told himself it was the right decision. Smart, protective. His family had enemies. His position made him a target. A woman he'd known for 8 months, a visiting artist from Accra who painted emotions he couldn't name, claiming he'd fathered triplets? The timing was too convenient. The whole situation smelled like a trap. So he'd run the DNA test without telling her. And when the lab results came back inconclusive due to a processing error he'd later discover, he'd made his choice. He'd chosen doubt over faith, fear over love. Now, 4 years later, Min-jun stood in the floor-to-ceiling windows of his Seoul headquarters, watching the city bleed into sunset, and wondered why success tasted like ash in his mouth. His company, Kang Innovations, dominated the Asian tech market. His face appeared on magazine covers monthly. At 32, he was one of the youngest self-made billionaires in South Korea. His father finally looked at him with something resembling pride. But at night, alone in his penthouse, he sometimes remembered the way Amara laughed. How she'd touch his face and say, "You carry so much weight, Min-jun. Let me hold some of it." How she painted him once, and in her version, he looked almost human. He shook the memory away. Sentimentality was a luxury he couldn't afford. "Mr. Kang?" His assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "Your 4 p.m. is here." The Accra Arts Initiative representatives. Min-jun's jaw tightened. A business meeting, nothing more. The Accra Arts Initiative wanted to partner with his company's new cultural exchange program, a PR move his board insisted would soften his reputation. He'd approved it without reading the details. "Send them in." The door opened. A delegation of 4 people entered, but Min-jun's eyes locked on none of them. Because walking through his office door, hand in hand with 2 small boys and carrying a little girl on her hip, was Amara. 4 years disappeared. She looked different, stronger somehow. Her hair was wrapped in vibrant cloth, her presence more solid than he remembered. But her eyes, God, those eyes, still held that same quiet knowing that used to terrify him. And the children. Min-jun felt the air leave his lungs. 2 boys, identical, maybe 5 years old. 1 girl, same age, her hair in small braids decorated with colorful beads. They stood close to their mother, curious but cautious, and every single one of them had his eyes. Not similar, not reminiscent, identical. That specific shade of dark brown that bordered on black, with the slight upturn at the corners that his mother used to say made him look like he was always planning something. "Mr. Kang," one of the delegates began, oblivious to the earthquake happening in Min-jun's chest. "Thank you for meeting with us. We're here to discuss who authorized children at this meeting." Min-jun's voice came out harder than he intended, a defense mechanism activating. Amara's expression didn't change. "My apologies, Mr. Kang. There was a childcare issue at the last minute. I'm Amara Osei, the artist coordinating the exhibition program. These are my children. They'll be quiet." My children, not ours, not yours, mine. Mama, the little girl whispered, her voice carrying in the silent office. Why does that man look like Jay and Jun? The room froze. One of the boys, Jay or Jun, apparently, tilted his head, studying Min Jun with an intensity that was unsettling in a 5-year-old. He has our eyes, May. Hush, babies, Amara said softly. But Min Jun saw it. The way her hand trembled slightly as she smoothed the girl's hair. The way she avoided looking directly at him. The meeting proceeded like a fever dream. The delegates talked about cultural exchange, art installations, funding. Min Jun heard none of it. He watched Amara, the way she took notes with elegant precision, the way she spoke about her vision for connecting Korean and African artists with quiet passion, and he watched the children. They were unnaturally still for 5-year-olds. Not fidgeting, not whining, just observing, like they were trained. But trained by whom? Amara lived humbly. That much was clear from the simple but clean clothes they wore, the worn but well-maintained bag she carried. Then it happened. One of the delegates knocked over a glass of water. Instinct. Min Jun moved to catch it, but he wasn't fast enough. The boy named Jun was. In a movement that should have been impossible for a child, Jun's hand shot out, caught the falling glass midair, and set it down smoothly on the table. The motion was fluid, controlled, trained. Martial arts training. Advanced martial arts training. Min Jun's eyes snapped to the child. Jun looked back at him, unblinking. Then, almost imperceptibly, the boy bowed. A traditional Korean bow, executed with perfect form. Who taught you that? Min Jun's question came out before he could stop it. Jun glanced at his mother. Amara's face remained carefully neutral, but Min Jun saw the flash of something in her eyes. Pride? Fear? Both? Nobody taught us, sir, Jun said politely. We just know things sometimes. Mama says it's in our blood. The meeting ended. The delegates left. But Min Jun stopped Amara at the door. Wait. She turned, the children clustered around her like small sentinels. Up close, the resemblance was devastating. Not just the eyes. The girl had his mother's nose. One of the boys had the same stubborn jawline Min Jun saw in the mirror every morning. We need to talk, he said quietly. We really don't, Mr. Kang. Her voice was steady but sad. You made yourself clear 4 years ago. These are my children, only mine. We don't need anything from you. That's not... He stopped. What could he say? That he'd made a mistake? That seeing them made his carefully constructed world feel like a lie? That the boy had just demonstrated a skill level that shouldn't exist without years of dedicated training? Goodbye, Mr. Kang. Amara shifted May on her hip. Jae, Jun, say goodbye to Mr. Kang. The boys bowed again, synchronized, perfect form. Then they were gone. Min Jun stood alone in his office, the scent of Amara's perfume, something warm, like amber and vanilla, still lingering in the air. And for the first time in 4 years, he questioned everything. Min Jun didn't sleep that night. He sat in his home office, the lights of Seoul sprawling beneath him like scattered diamonds, and pulled up every file he could find. The original DNA test from 4 years ago. Hospital records. Private investigator reports he'd commissioned and never fully read, choosing willful ignorance over painful truth. The DNA test. He'd forgotten about the lab note. Sample degradation, results inconclusive, retest recommended. He'd taken inconclusive as confirmation of his doubts. He'd wanted an excuse, and he'd found one. Coward. His phone buzzed. His mother. He ignored it. She'd been pushing him toward marriage again, parading suitable women from appropriate families. Women who understood his world, his obligations, his coldness. None of them had ever looked at him the way Amara once had. Like he was worth saving. He pulled up the Accra Arts Initiative file. Amara Osei, 30. Single mother of triplets. Worked 3 jobs while completing her master's degree in fine arts. Her exhibition work had won awards in Ghana, South Africa, Kenya. She'd been invited to Seoul's International Arts Collective specifically, one of only 10 artists selected worldwide. She'd done all of this while raising 3 children alone. 3 children who moved like trained fighters. Min Jun opened a new search. Child prodigies in martial arts. Pages of results. Young students training for years to achieve basic competence. Then he refined the search. Instinctive fighting ability, genetic muscle memory, Inherited skills. The results were sparse, theoretical, mostly dismissed as pseudoscience. But Minjun's family had secrets too. His grandfather had been one of Korea's most feared underground fighters before going legitimate. His father still trained daily, movements so ingrained they were automatic. Minjun himself had been trained since childhood. Not for sport, but for survival in a world where business rivals sometimes played dirty. Could it be inherited? Could muscle memory, reflexes, instinctive movement patterns pass through blood? His phone buzzed again. This time, a text from his head of security. You wanted surveillance on the artist. Found her apartment, Hongdae district, building secure. She keeps to herself. Children attend international preschool nearby. No red flags. Minjun stared at the address. He shouldn't go. This was stalking, inappropriate, potentially illegal. He was in his car within 10 minutes. Hongdae at midnight was alive with energy. College students, artists, musicians. Amara's building was modest but clean, tucked between a vintage clothing shop and a small cafe. Minjun sat in his car across the street, feeling ridiculous. What was he doing? What did he expect to find? Then he saw them. The apartment window, 4th floor, still lit. And through the sheer curtains, silhouettes, Amara and the 3 children, moving in synchronized patterns. Training patterns. Minjun's breath caught. They moved through forms he recognized. Basic taekwondo, but modified, smoother. The children mirrored their mother's movements perfectly. No hesitation, no awkwardness. 5-year-olds shouldn't move like that. It took years to develop that kind of body awareness. Unless it wasn't learned. Unless it was inherited. Oh God, Minjun whispered to his empty car. They're mine. Not a thought. Not a suspicion. A certainty that crashed through him like thunder. They were his. Those children carried his blood, his grandfather's legacy, his family's instinctive understanding of movement and balance and controlled violence. That's why they moved that way. That's why Jun had caught the glass. That's why they bowed with perfect form without being taught. They were born knowing. And he'd abandoned them. The light in the apartment went out. Minjun sat in darkness, his hands gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles went white. 4 years of their lives gone. First steps, first words, first everything. Amara had done it all alone, while he'd built his empire and convinced himself he'd made the right choice. His phone rang. His father. Minjun, your mother said you've been distracted. The Hong deal needs your attention. The board meeting is in 3 days. I need you focused. Father, what do you know about inherited skills? Physical abilities passing through generations? Silence. Then carefully. Why do you ask? I saw children today, 5 years old. They moved like trained fighters, but they haven't been trained. It was instinctive, natural. Another pause. Your grandfather believed in bloodline memory. He said our family carried the warrior spirit in our bones, that it would emerge whether we trained it or not. I thought he was being poetic. A beat. Are these children yours, Minjun? I don't know. Maybe. Probably. The admission felt like jumping off a cliff. I need to know for sure. Then you know what you need to do. Either you claim them, or you walk away completely. There is no middle ground with children. They deserve certainty. His father hung up. Minjun sat in his car until sunrise painted the Seoul sky in shades of pink and gold. Then he did something he hadn't done in 4 years. He prayed. To ancestors, to whatever forces governed fate, to the memory of the better man he'd been when Amara first touched his face and saw someone worth loving. He prayed for a chance to make this right. The next morning, Minjun showed up at the International Arts Collective building at 9 a.m. He'd learned from the file that Amara taught free art classes there for immigrant children 3 mornings a week. He found her in a bright studio, surrounded by 8 children from various countries, all painting with fierce concentration. Amara moved between them, encouraging, guiding, laughing. She saw him in the doorway. Her smile died. Miss Osei, he said formally, aware of the children watching. May I speak with you for a moment? She hesitated, then nodded to her assistant teacher. 5 minutes. They stepped into the hallway. Minjun had prepared a speech, carefully worded, logical. It all evaporated. I need to do the DNA test again, he said. The first one was inconclusive. I didn't know. I thought I was wrong. About everything. Amara crossed her arms. Why now? Because I saw them, really saw them. They have my eyes, Amara. They move like my family moves. Jun caught that glass yesterday like he'd been training for years. That's not normal. My children are perfectly normal. Your children are extraordinary. And if they're mine, they deserve to know their father, their family, their heritage. You had your chance to be their father 4 years ago. You chose differently. The words hit like a physical blow. I was scared. I was stupid. I let fear make my decisions. But I want to make this right. Right? Amara's voice rose slightly, then dropped again, controlled. You think a DNA test makes things right? You think proving biology erases 4 years of absence? Of me working 3 jobs while pregnant? Of delivering triplets alone in a hospital where I didn't speak the language well enough to tell them I was scared? No, nothing makes that right. But ignoring this doesn't help them either. Amara looked away, jaw tight. Where were you when May had pneumonia at 6 months and I walked 3 miles in the snow because I couldn't afford a taxi? Where were you when Jen started having nightmares about a father who rejected him even though he'd never met you? Where were you when Jay asked me why all his friends had daddies who came to their school events? Each question was a knife. Min-jun took them all. I wasn't there. You're right. But I want to be. If you'll let me. If they're mine, I want... If? Amara's laugh was bitter. You still doubt, after seeing them, after watching June move like a fighter. You still need proof. Don't you? Don't you want certainty? She met his eyes then, and he saw it. The truth she'd been carrying alone for 4 years. I've never doubted Min-jun. Not for 1 second. I knew they were yours the moment they were born. I knew it when they opened their eyes. I knew it when they started moving before they could walk. With balance no baby should have. I've always known. Then let me know too. Please. Amara was quiet for a long moment. Children's laughter echoed from the studio behind them. Soul traffic hummed outside. The world kept turning, indifferent to this small, monumental conversation. Fine, she said finally. 1 test. You handle the arrangements. But Min-jun? She stepped closer, and he caught that scent again. Amber and vanilla, and something uniquely her. If the test confirms what I already know, you don't get to walk away again. Ever. Either you're in completely, or you stay out forever. My children won't survive another abandonment. I won't allow it. I'm in, he said immediately. Whatever the result, I'm in. I should have been 4 years ago. I'm sorry I wasn't. She searched his face, looking for lies, for weakness, for the man who'd called her a gold digger in a hospital room. He let her look. He had nothing left to hide behind. I'll bring them to your office tomorrow. 3 p.m., have the test ready. Then she walked back into the studio, back to the children who needed her, leaving Min-jun in the hallway with the weight of 4 years of mistakes and the fragile possibility of redemption. They arrived at exactly 3 p.m. Min-jun had cleared his schedule, dismissed his assistants, and arranged for a private medical team, the most discreet in Seoul. He'd also done something he'd never done before. He'd called his mother and told her everything. She'd been silent for exactly 30 seconds. Then, bring them to dinner tonight. All of them. If these are my grandchildren, they've waited long enough to know their family. Now, watching Amara and the triplets enter his office, Min-jun felt something he rarely experienced. Nervousness. Jae wore a tiny suit that looked impossibly formal on a 5-year-old. Jun was in traditional Korean hanbok, clearly Amara's attempt to honor the culture. May had on a yellow dress with sunflowers that made her look like condensed joy. Hello again, Mr. Kang, Jun said, bowing. Jun, Jae, May, Min-jun said, crouching to their level. You can call me Min-jun if you want. Mr. Kang is very formal. Mama says we should be respectful, Jae said seriously. She says respect is free but worth everything. Your mama is very wise. May tilted her head, studying him. Are you going to make Mama cry again? The question punched through his chest. Again? Sometimes Mama cries at night, May explained matter-of-factly. She tries to be quiet, but I hear. She looks at pictures on her phone and cries. Jae says it's because she's sad. Jun says it's because she's strong. I think it's both. Min-jun's eyes found Amara. She was looking away, jaw tight, refusing to meet his gaze. I'm going to try very hard not to make your mama cry, Min-jun said carefully. I made mistakes before. I want to do better. Okay, May said simply. We'll watch you. We're good at watching. The medical team entered. A geneticist Minjun had worked with before. Kind, professional, discreet. The process was quick, painless. Cheek swabs, consent forms, expedited processing that money could buy. Results in 4 hours, the geneticist said. I'll call you directly. Then they were alone again. Amara started gathering the children to leave, but Minjun stopped her. My mother wants to meet them. Tonight. Dinner at the family estate. Amara's eyes widened. Minjun, we don't even have the results yet. My mother doesn't need results. She saw the photos I sent her. She said, those are Kang eyes and I want to meet my grandchildren immediately. Direct quote. I can't just, we're not prepared for… Mama? Jun interrupted softly. Maybe we should go. Grandmother might be nice. And there might be good food, Jay added hopefully. May just looked at her mother with those impossibly wise eyes. You always tell us family is important, even when it's complicated. Amara looked like she wanted to argue, but her children had cornered her with her own wisdom. Fine. One dinner. But if anyone makes you uncomfortable, we leave. Understood? Understood, all three said in unison. The Kang family estate sat in the hills outside Seoul, traditional architecture blended with modern security. Minjun's driver had picked them up. Amara refused to let Minjun drive them himself, maintaining some boundary between what was and what might be. Now, standing at the entrance, Amara adjusted May's dress for the 3rd time. You're nervous, Minjun said quietly. Your family is one of the most powerful in Korea. I'm an artist from Ghana raising children alone. Of course I'm nervous. My family is about to meet 3 extraordinary children who exist because I was lucky enough to know you, even briefly. They should be nervous, not you. Before Amara could respond, the door opened. Minjun's mother stood there, 60 years old and radiating the kind of presence that came from decades of moving in powerful circles. She looked at the children. Her hand flew to her mouth. Oh, she whispered. Oh, they're perfect. Then she did something that shocked everyone, including her son. She dropped to her knees, ignoring the expensive silk of her hanbok, and opened her arms. Hello, sweet ones. I'm your Halmione, your grandmother. If you'll have me. May moved first, always the bravest. She walked straight into those open arms and hugged Minjun's mother with the unself-conscious affection of childhood. You smell like flowers, Halmione, May said. And you smell like sunshine, little one. Jun and Jae followed, more cautious but curious. Minjun's mother held all 3, tears streaming down her face, while Amara stood frozen, watching her children embrace a family they'd never known. Come inside, please, Minjun's mother said finally, standing but keeping hold of May's hand. All of you. We have much to discuss, and I made jjajangmyeon because I hear all children love black bean noodles. Dinner was surprisingly easy. Minjun's mother, Yoonha, had a gift for putting people at ease. She asked the children about their favorite games, their school, their mama's art. She listened like every word mattered. Minjun's father arrived late, his usual stern expression in place. But when he saw the triplets demonstrating their accidental martial arts skills in the garden, Jun blocking a leaf, Jae catching a butterfly mid-flight, May balancing on one foot with perfect stillness, his expression cracked. That's the Kang instinct, he said quietly to Minjun. I haven't seen it that strong since your grandfather. These are our blood, son. No test needed. But Minjun waited, because Amara needed to hear it. She needed the validation that he hadn't given her 4 years ago. The call came at 8 p.m. Minjun's phone buzzed. The geneticist. Mr. Kang, results are conclusive. Probability of paternity, 99, 98%. Those are definitely your children. Congratulations. Minjun closed his eyes. When he opened them, everyone was watching him. The children, curious. His parents, knowing. Amara, guarded, but hopeful despite herself. They're mine, he said, voice rough. The test confirms it. Jae, Jun, May, you're my children. Silence. Then Jae spoke, his young voice clear in the quiet room. Does this mean we finally have a daddy? And Minjun broke. He crossed the room, dropped to his knees in front of 3 children who should have known him from birth, and let 4 years of regret and grief pour out. Yes, he said, if you'll have me. I know I wasn't there before. I can't change that, But I'm here now, and I will be here every day for the rest of your lives, if you'll let me be your daddy. May patted his head like he was a crying child who needed comfort. It's okay. Mama always says everyone makes mistakes. What matters is if you fix them. I want to fix this, Minjun whispered. More than anything. Jun looked at his mother. Mama, is it okay if we have a daddy now? All eyes turned to Amara. She stood apart, arms wrapped around herself, tears streaming silently down her face. 4 years of carrying everything alone. 4 years of being both parents, both protector and provider, both strength and softness. That's up to you three, she said finally. This is your choice. The triplets looked at each other, that silent communication identical siblings sometimes shared. Then they looked back at Minjun, at this man who wore their face and carried their blood and wanted desperately to earn what should have been his from the beginning. Okay, Jay said. You can be our daddy, but you have to read us bedtime stories. And play games with us, June added. And never make Mama cry again, May finished firmly. Deal, Minjun said, laughing through tears. All of it, I promise. His mother was crying. His father looked suspiciously bright-eyed, and Amara was watching him like she had 4 years ago, in those early days when they'd first met. Like maybe, just maybe, he could still be someone worth believing in. Thank you, Minjun said to her. For not giving up on them, for being everything they needed when I wasn't. Thank you. She nodded, unable to speak. And in that moment, in his family's ancestral home, surrounded by parents and children and possibility, Minjun felt something he'd been missing for 4 years without knowing it. He felt complete. The night ended with 3 5-year-olds falling asleep in their Halmioni's arms while their father and mother sat awkwardly on opposite ends of a couch, neither quite sure how to navigate this new reality where they were permanently connected but fundamentally strangers. Tomorrow would bring logistics, custody arrangements, family integration, public relations nightmares. Tomorrow would bring the real work. But tonight, for the first time in 4 years, 3 children slept knowing they had a father. And that was everything. The news broke 3 days later. Kang Min-jun's secret children. CEO acknowledges triplets with African artist. Minjun's phone exploded. His PR team panicked. The board demanded an emergency meeting. Competitors circled like sharks smelling blood. Stock prices fluctuated. Society gossip pages went into overdrive. But Minjun didn't care. He was sitting on the floor of Amara's modest apartment, watching Jay build an elaborate block tower, while June explained the structural integrity issues, and May painted her father's nails bright purple because daddies should be colorful too. You should go, Amara said from the kitchen doorway. Your company needs you. My children need me more. Minjun, I've spent 4 years building an empire. I can spend a few days building a relationship with my kids. May looked up from her nail polish artwork. Daddy, your phone is buzzing again. Daddy, she'd started calling him that yesterday, casually, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Each time she said it, Minjun felt his heart reconstruct itself. Let it buzz, princess. But Amara's expression was worried. This media attention. I didn't want this for them, for us. I know, I'm handling it. How? The photographers were outside the preschool this morning. Jun punched a reporter's camera when the man got too close to May. Minjun's head snapped up. He what? Instinct, Amara said tiredly. The protective instinct your family apparently passes down. He saw a threat to his sister and he reacted. He's 5, Minjun. He shouldn't have to protect anyone yet. Minjun stood, carefully setting aside May's nail polish. Give me 2 hours. To do what? To remind Seoul why it's dangerous to threaten a Kang. The press conference was held at Kang Innovations headquarters. Every major outlet attended. Minjun walked in wearing a tailored suit, his expression the cold, controlled mask that had made him feared in boardrooms across Asia. I'll make this brief, he said, no preamble. 4 years ago, I made a mistake that I deeply regret. I failed to acknowledge my children when they were born. I failed their mother, a brilliant artist who has raised 3 extraordinary human beings with grace, strength, and 0 support from me. Cameras flashed. Reporters leaned forward. I am rectifying that mistake now. Jae, Jun, and Mei Kang are my children. They are now under the full protection of the Kang family, which means this. Anyone who harasses them, photographs them without consent, approaches them at school, or makes their mother's life difficult in any way will face legal action from our attorneys and personal consequences from me. A reporter raised her hand. Mr. Kang, is this a custody dispute? Will you be taking the children from Ms. Osei? Ms. Osei is the best parent these children could have. I'm not taking anything. I'm asking for the privilege of being part of their lives. She's considering what that looks like. Are you and Ms. Osei romantically involved? Min Jun's jaw tightened. Ms. Osei and I are focused on our children's well-being. That's all I'll say about our personal relationship. Do you plan to marry her? Next question. Your father is known for his traditional views. How does he feel about having mixed-race grandchildren? Min Jun's eyes went ice-cold. My father is overjoyed to have 3 brilliant grandchildren who carry our family's legacy in their bones. Anyone who has a problem with my children's heritage will no longer be someone I associate with, professionally or personally. My children are Korean and Ghanaian. They are perfect exactly as they are. He stood. This conference is over. Leave my family alone or deal with me. I promise you don't want the second option. He walked out, leaving stunned silence behind. When Min Jun returned to the apartment, he found chaos. Amara was on the phone, speaking rapid Twi, her voice strained. The triplets were huddled together on the couch, looking smaller than usual. His mother was there too, looking furious. What happened? Your board happened, Yoonha said sharply. 3 members just tried to convince Amara to take a settlement and disappear quietly with the children. They called her a complication and suggested her presence damages the company image. Min Jun's blood went cold. Which members? Min Jun, don't... Amara started. Which members? His mother named them. Min Jun was already dialing his attorney. Draft termination papers for board members Kim, Park, and Cho. Effective immediately. I don't care about the legal complications. They threatened my family. They're done. Daddy? Jun's small voice cut through the anger. Are you in trouble because of us? Min Jun crossed the room, knelt in front of his son. Nobody. Some people are in trouble because they forgot what matters. But you 3? You're not a complication. You're not a problem. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. Even though we made your work hard? Jay asked. Especially because of that. Work is just work. You're my children. There's no comparison. May climbed into his lap. Mama says we're a package deal. All of us together, or nothing. Min Jun looked at Amara over May's head. She was watching him, guarded but present. This woman who'd single-handedly kept 3 pieces of his soul alive while he'd been too blind to see what mattered. Your mama is absolutely right, Min Jun said. Package deal. I wouldn't want it any other way. That night, after the children finally fell asleep, May in Min Jun's arms, the boys curled against their mother, Min Jun and Amara sat on her tiny balcony, Soul's light spread below them. You fired 3 board members today, Amara said quietly. For us. For my family. They disrespected you. They made my children feel like burdens. That's unforgivable. This is going to get harder before it gets easier. The media, your business rivals, people who don't approve of us. Let them disapprove. I've spent my whole life caring what people think. It made me rich and successful and miserable. These past few days with Jay, Jun, and May, I've laughed more, felt more, lived more than in 4 years of building my empire. Amara was quiet for a long moment. What do you want, Min Jun? Really want? Honestly, I want to wake up and make my kids breakfast. I want to walk May to school and help Jun with his homework and teach Jay about my grandfather's stories. I want to paint with you and hear about your art and maybe, someday, earn your forgiveness. I'm not sure I can forgive you yet. I know. I'm not asking you to. I'm just asking for the chance to prove I'm not the man who walked out of that hospital. Or maybe prove I can be the man I was when we first met. The one you painted. The one who looked almost human. She laughed softly, sadly. That man was real. I saw him. But he was scared. I'm still scared. Terrified, actually. I have 3 children who deserve better than my mistakes. A woman who should hate me but lets me into her home anyway. Parents who are ready to embrace grandchildren, I denied them. I'm scared I'll mess this up again. Then don't. That simple? That complicated. But Min Jun? She turned to look at him fully. You fire 3 board members, give that press conference, show up every day for the kids. You're trying. They see it. I see it. Is trying enough? For now? Yes. Ask me again in 6 months. He nodded. 6 months. He could work with that. Inside, May stirred, calling out sleepily. Both parents stood simultaneously, moving toward her. Their hands brushed in the doorway. Neither pulled away. She has nightmares sometimes, Amara whispered. About monsters. She likes when we both sing to her. I don't know any lullabies. I'll teach you. So they sat on either side of May's small bed. This impossible little girl who looked like sunshine condensed into human form, and Amara taught Minjun a Ghanaian lullaby while their daughter drifted back to sleep between them. And Minjun thought, this is what I was missing. Not success or approval or empire, this. The morning brought new complications. Minjun's company stock had dropped 8% overnight. His father called an emergency family meeting. Amara's visa status suddenly came under scrutiny. The media circus intensified. But when Minjun arrived at the apartment at 7 a.m. to make breakfast, a promise he'd made to Jay, he found 3 children waiting at the door, already dressed, beaming. Daddy! They shouted in unison. And every complication, every problem, every sacrifice became worth it. Because he was somebody's daddy now. And that mattered more than anything else in the world. The ultimatum came on a Tuesday. Minjun's father sat across from him in the private study of the family estate, the same room where generations of Kang men had made decisions that shaped empires. The board wants you to choose, his father said without preamble. The company or the children. Minjun's coffee cup stopped halfway to his lips. Excuse me? 8% stock loss. 3 major investors threatening to pull out. The Hong deal collapsed because their chairman is uncomfortable with the family scandal. The board voted. They want you to step back from public acknowledgement of the children until the situation stabilizes. They want me to pretend my children don't exist. They want you to be strategic. Keep your relationship private. No more public appearances. Let Amara raise them quietly with financial support. In 2-3 years, when the media moves on, you can... No. His father's eyes narrowed. Minjun, no, I'm not hiding my children. I'm not asking them to be a secret. I did that already. It nearly destroyed them and me. This isn't about your feelings. 20,000 employees depend on Kang Innovations. Shareholder value, partnerships, legacy. Legacy? Minjun stood, pacing. What legacy, father? Grandfather built his empire with his fists and his honor. You built yours with strategy and sacrifice. I was building mine with nothing but ambition and emptiness. Now I have children. Real legacy. Blood and breath and laughter. You want me to trade that for stock prices? I want you to be realistic. You can have both, just not publicly. Not now. They're 5 years old. Jun asked me yesterday if I was ashamed of them because I wouldn't let him call me daddy at the company event. 5 years old, and already wondering if his father's love comes with conditions. His father was quiet for a long moment. I remember when you were 5. You asked me why I missed your birthday party. I told you business came first. You never asked again. Exactly. I never asked because I learned the answer. Love comes second. Always. I won't teach my children that. So you'll let the company fail? I'll find another way. There isn't one. Not in the time frame we have. The vote is Friday. Either you commit to the company without the children as a public factor, or they want you to step down as CEO. The words hung between them like a guillotine blade. Step down. From the company he'd built from his father's foundation. The work he'd poured his soul into. The identity he'd worn like armor. I need to think. You have 3 days. Minjun didn't go home. He drove to Amara's apartment, where he found her helping the triplets with an art project, handprint paintings for their grandmother. Daddy! May launched herself at him. Look, my hand is a butterfly. He caught her, held her close, breathed in the strawberry scent of her shampoo. It's beautiful, princess. Jay and Jun showed him their creations, a dragon and a tiger, because Halmione said grandfather loved fierce things that protected their families. Amara watched him carefully. You look upset. Can we talk? After bedtime? She nodded. Minjun stayed through dinner, ramyun and fish cakes that Jay helped cook, proudly announcing he was learning to be a Korean chef. He read them bedtime stories, his Twi pronunciation terrible but improving because Amara corrected him patiently each night. He watched them fall asleep in their shared bedroom, 3 small bodies that contained his entire heart. Then he sat with Amara on the balcony and told her everything. She listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. "What do you want to do?" she asked finally. "I want to tell them to go to hell." "But it's not that simple. The company employs thousands. Families depend on those jobs. And if I step down, the board will install someone who might dismantle everything I've built." "So you're considering their offer, the quiet arrangement?" "No, I'm not. But I'm trying to understand the cost of refusing." Amara pulled her knees to her chest. "When I was pregnant, working 3 jobs, I had a choice too. There was a gallery in Paris offering me a fellowship, full support, housing, career opportunity. But I'd have to give up the babies for adoption. They said triplets were too much for a single mother to handle alone." Minjun's chest tightened. "You never told me this." "I'm telling you now. I sat in that gallery director's office, looking at the contract that could have changed my life, and I thought about 3 heartbeats inside me. 3 pieces of you that you didn't want, but I did. And I chose them. No hesitation. Amara, I'm not saying this to make you feel guilty. I'm saying I understand impossible choices. But Minjun, here's what I learned. There are costs either way. You keep the CEO position and hide your children. They pay the cost in feeling less than. In learning, love comes with conditions. You step down and lose the company. You pay the cost in career and identity. But at least that cost is yours alone. You carry it, not them. You think I should step down? I think you should decide what kind of father you want to be. The kind who's there but conditional, or the kind who's fully present, consequences be damned. A sound from inside. Jun, standing in the doorway in his pajamas, tears streaming down his face. "I heard you talking," he whispered. "You're in trouble because of us, because you said we're yours." Minjun crossed to him in 3 strides, lifting him up. "Jun, buddy, no. We can be quiet. We can stay secret. We don't need you to be our daddy at work, just at home. Please don't lose everything because of us." And there it was. His 5-year-old son, already learning to make himself smaller to fit someone else's comfort. Already negotiating away his own worth to make things easier for adults. Exactly what Minjun had done his whole childhood. Minjun carried Jun back to bed, where Jae and Mei had woken up too, all 3 children looking at him with frightened eyes. "Listen to me, all 3 of you," Minjun said, sitting on the floor so they could see his face. "You are not a problem. You are not a burden. You are not something I need to hide. You are my children, and I am proud, so proud, to be your daddy." "But your work," Jae started, "is just work. Jobs change, companies change. But you know what doesn't change? The fact that you're my kids, that I love you, that I will choose you every single time over everything else." "Every time?" Mei asked, clutching her worn stuffed elephant. "Every time. No exceptions, no conditions. You are my choice, always." Jun wiped his eyes. "Even if it's hard?" "Especially if it's hard. Because you're worth hard. You're worth everything." The children piled on him then, all 3 at once, holding tight like he might disappear. Amara watched from the doorway, one hand pressed to her mouth, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. Later, when the children finally slept again, Minjun found her still on the balcony. "I'm stepping down," he said simply. "Minjun, I'm stepping down as CEO. I'll stay on the board, maintain influence, but someone else can deal with investor anxiety and media strategy. I'm going to be a father. Fully, publicly, proudly." "You've worked your entire life for that position." "I've worked my entire life for something to make me feel whole. I thought it was success." Turns out it was 3 5-year-olds, and their extraordinary mother. Amara turned to face him. "You're sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything. My children will not grow up wondering if I'm ashamed of them. They won't learn to negotiate away their worth. They won't settle for conditional love. I won't let them become me." She reached out, hesitated, then took his hand. Her fingers were warm, steady. "Okay then, we figure it out together." "Together?" "You're choosing them, completely. That means we're partners in this, whether we're together or not. They deserve united parents. And maybe someday more than that?" She smiled, sad but genuine. "Ask me again in 6 months. But Minjun, this choice, this matters. You're showing them what love looks like. That's everything." He held her hand on that balcony, while Seoul hummed below them, and his whole life reoriented around 3 sleeping children who'd never asked to be born, but deserved everything he could give. Friday's board meeting would be brutal. His reputation would take hits. His father would be disappointed. Society would gossip, but Jun wouldn't cry himself to sleep wondering if he was too much trouble, and that made everything else irrelevant. Inside, 3 children slept peacefully, not knowing their father had just chosen them over everything he'd worked for. But they'd feel it when they woke up. In every decision, every moment, every time he showed up without hesitation, they'd know they were worth it. And maybe eventually, they'd teach him how to be worth it too. The board meeting lasted 17 minutes. Min-jun walked in, placed a single sheet of paper on the table, and said, "My resignation as CEO, effective in 30 days. I'll remain on the board as a voting member. I recommend Min-ji Kwon as interim CEO. She's been running operations brilliantly for 3 years. Any questions?" Silence, then chaos. His father stood abruptly. "Min-jun, wait." But Min-jun was already walking out. He had somewhere more important to be. Jae's school was having a Father's Day presentation. Min-jun had promised he'd be there, and for the first time in his life, a promise to his child mattered more than anything happening in a boardroom. He arrived just as Jae's name was called. His son stood on the small stage, clutching a paper he'd decorated with careful drawings, a tall figure holding hands with 3 smaller ones. "My daddy's name is Kang Min-jun," Jae read, his voice shaking slightly. "He used to work all the time and didn't know about me and my brother and sister. But now he knows, and he comes every day. He's learning to make pancakes, but they're still lumpy. He reads us stories and does funny voices. He says we're his favorite people in the whole world." Jae looked up, scanning the audience. His face lit up when he spotted Min-jun. And he came. He promised he'd come, and he's here. Min-jun's throat was too tight to speak. He just raised his hand in a small wave. Jae beamed. After the presentation, Jae ran to him, Jun and Mei following. They'd all been in the same class, learning together at the international school that Amara had carefully chosen. "You came," Jae said, still amazed. "I promised." "I'll always come when I promise." "Some kids' daddies didn't come?" Mei said sadly, pointing to a little girl crying in the corner. "Her heart is broken." Min-jun looked at Amara, who was talking with other parents, somehow both standing out and fitting in perfectly. She caught his eye, smiled, nodded toward the crying child. Min-jun understood. He walked over, knelt down. "Hi. I'm Mei's dad. She's really worried about you." The little girl hiccuped. "My daddy had a meeting. He's always busy. I know that feeling. I used to be that daddy. But you know what I learned? Meetings end. But missing moments with kids? Those don't come back." He pulled out his phone. "Want me to call your dad? Sometimes daddies need reminding what matters." The girl nodded. Min-jun called the father, a junior executive at a competing firm. The conversation was brief, pointed. "Your daughter is crying at school because you chose a meeting over her. I just resigned as CEO to avoid making that mistake. Get here in 20 minutes or you'll regret it." 15 minutes later, the father arrived breathless. His daughter launched into his arms. Min-jun overheard him whisper, "I'm so sorry, baby. Daddy forgot what was important. Never again." Amara appeared beside Min-jun. "You're becoming quite the father advocate." "Someone once told me children deserve parents who show up. I'm just spreading the message." Kang Min-jun, child welfare crusader. That's not a headline I expected. Life's full of surprises. He watched the triplets playing with other children, their laughter bright and unself-conscious. "Speaking of which, I bought a house." Amara's eyes widened. "You what?" "A house. In Seongbuk-dong, near the mountains, big garden, 6 bedrooms, art studio with north-facing windows. I thought, if you're willing, we could all live there. Separate spaces, no pressure. But the kids wouldn't have to split time between apartments. They could just be home." "Min-jun, that's too much? Too fast? Tell me. I'm still learning the boundaries here." She was quiet for a moment, watching their children. "Show me the house first. Let the kids decide if they like it. Then we'll talk." Fair enough. The house was perfect. The moment the triplets saw it, they scattered like excited puppies, Jun testing the acoustics in every room, Jay examining the structural integrity of the treehouse in the garden, May spinning in circles in the studio, declaring she could feel the art wanting to be born here. Amara stood in the studio, running her fingers along the custom easels Minjun had installed. "You built this for me," she said softly. "You gave up Paris for our children. You deserve a space where your art can breathe." "I didn't give up Paris for you." "I know, you did it for them. But I'm trying to give back what you lost. Or at least create something new that's worthy of your sacrifice." She turned to face him. "This house, the studio, showing up every day, the bored resignation. You're trying so hard. Is it working? Ask me in 6 months. That's still the timeline. Then I have 4 months left to prove I'm worth the chance." "Minjun," she stepped closer. "You've already proven you're a good father. The question isn't whether you love the kids. It's whether we can build something sustainable. Co-parenting, living together, navigating your family and my work and their needs. That's the complicated part. I want complicated. Simple hasn't been working for me." Before Amara could respond, a crash from upstairs. They both ran. Jun stood in what would be his bedroom, a broken lamp at his feet, his face stricken. "I'm sorry. I was practicing forms and I kicked too high and—" "It's just a lamp, buddy," Minjun said immediately. "Are you hurt?" "No, but I broke your house already. Our house." "And things break. It's okay." Jen's eyes welled up. "The other kids at school say their parents fight when things break. They say we're going to fight too because we're not a real family." Minjun and Amara exchanged a look. Then Minjun sat on the floor, pulling Jun down beside him. "Listen, your mama and I aren't together like some parents. We're figuring out what we are. But you know what we'll never be? We'll never be people who fight in front of you kids about broken lamps or mistakes. We're a team, her and me, for you three. Always." Amara sat down too, completing the circle. "Jun, families come in all shapes. Some have married parents, some don't. What makes a family real is showing up, caring, trying. Your daddy and I, we're trying really hard. Together." "Promise?" Jun whispered. "Promise," they said in unison. Jay and May appeared in the doorway, clearly having been eavesdropping. "So we're moving here?" Jay asked hopefully. Amara looked around the room, at the space Minjun had created, at their children's hopeful faces, at the man who'd walked away 4 years ago but was fighting to stay now. "Trial basis," she said finally. 3 months. We see how it works. We stay honest about what's working and what isn't. Deal?" "Deal," Minjun said immediately. "Deal." The triplets shouted, jumping on both parents, all 5 of them collapsing in a heap of laughter and relief. 2 months later, Minjun woke to the smell of burning pancakes. He stumbled to the kitchen to find Amara teaching May how to flip them, both of them covered in flour. Jun was setting the table with intense concentration, making sure each placement was perfectly symmetrical. Jay was attempting to squeeze orange juice, getting more on himself than in the glasses. "Morning, Daddy," they chorused. "We're making you breakfast," May announced proudly. "Because you always make us breakfast, so it's fair." Minjun looked at Amara. She was smiling, relaxed in a way he'd never seen her. Her hair was wrapped in a silk scarf, she wore an old paint-stained shirt, and she was more beautiful than any memory. "Fair is fair," Amara said softly. They ate breakfast together, burnt pancakes, 2 pulpy orange juice, and eggs that were somehow both runny and overcooked. It was the best meal Minjun had ever had. After, while the kids played in the garden, Amara pulled him aside. "It's been good," she said. "These 2 months. Better than good." "Yeah? The kids are happy, stable." "You've kept every promise. You show up tired, stressed, sometimes completely lost, but you show up. Is this the part where you tell me it's working?" She smiled. "It's the part where I tell you I'm ready to try. Not just co-parenting. Us, slowly, carefully, but actually try." Minjun's heart stopped, started, raced. I see who you're becoming, who you're choosing to be. And I think maybe we can build something here. Not what we had before. Something new. Something that includes 3 incredible kids and 2 people who are learning how to be brave. I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you're working on deserving them, and that's close enough. He reached for her hand. She let him take it. Outside, the triplets were practicing forms in the garden. Jun's kicks precise, Jay's block strong, May's balance perfect. The Kang legacy, alive in 3 small bodies that carried both Korean and Ghanaian blood, both power and grace. Minjun's father appeared at the garden gate, watching his grandchildren with undisguised pride. "I was wrong," he said to Minjun later, "about the choice. I told you to pick the company. You picked them. And somehow you kept both. The company's thriving under new leadership. Your reputation improved because people respect integrity. And you." He gestured at the house, the children, Amara painting in her studio. "You built an empire that actually matters." "I didn't build it, father. I just stopped destroying it." "Same thing, son, same thing." That night, after the children were asleep, Minjun and Amara sat on the porch, watching Seoul's lights below. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "That 4 years ago, I had everything and felt empty. Now I have less, no CEO title, no absolute control, no certainty about anything, and I feel full, complete. You have 3 kids who adore you, a family that embraced them, and a woman who's willing to see where this goes. That's not nothing. It's everything." He looked at her. "Thank you. For not giving up. For letting me try. For being stronger than I ever was. We're both trying. That's all love really is. 2 people choosing to keep trying even when it's hard. Is this love then? What we're building?" Amara smiled. "Ask me in 4 months. That's when the 6 months is up. I can wait 4 months. Good. Because I'm worth waiting for." "You really are." Inside, May called out sleepily. They both stood to go to her, moving in sync now, partners in this strange and beautiful new life they were constructing from broken pieces and second chances. Minjun had spent 32 years building an empire of money and power. It took 3 5-year-olds to teach him what empire really meant. Family, chosen daily, protected fiercely, loved without condition. That was the only legacy that mattered. And it was finally, beautifully his. The end. Sometimes the greatest power is admitting you were wrong. Sometimes the biggest empire is measured in small hands holding yours. Sometimes love requires losing everything to find what matters. Kang Min-jun lost a CEO title and gained 3 children, a partner, and a soul. It was the best trade he ever made.